What's up?
Hello, welcome back.
Yes. We're still hashing it out.
I don't like the beginning parts.
It's okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I feel like we need a real person sitting here so it doesn't feel so weird. We just like look at someone. My cat.
Yeah, okay. You know,
Welcome back.
The cameraman, welcome back.
Welcome
we
back.
have Arrow as our cameraman. So that's pretty cool.
Well, you know what? Okay, so this is episode
2.
nîso. Episode nîso.
Mhm.
We had our first episode. And actually, you know, I got some good feedback on it. Like there's a few people who like actually watched it.
Yeah.
I know that. I know a few people actually watched it, and which is really cute. It's nice. I feel like sometimes the things we're talking about is important for people to hear.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like even just one person watching is a reach.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
What does Lady Gaga say when she's like, "There's like 99 people in the room, and if only one person believes in you." It's like something
It's so
along
profound.
those lines.
Lady
Yeah.
Gaga.
Yeah. Mother Monster.
Mother Monster.
So yeah, again, let's go in through like a little introduction. So Tansei, wabi kinunitsuga sun kisuku sutsunya. Hello, I'm White Eagle. My government name, my tax exemption name, my criminal record name. I don't have a criminal record. It is Chase Campo, and I'm from Kisuku, Treaty 4 Nation, and I'm currently here in Treaty 6 in Musqueam, Skygon, colloquially known as Edmonton, and you can sashay into yourself.
Tensei kakyo, pisa moya bigan bawa te squeo, ntiga sun, ikwa Rachelle Ladu. I am standing on a rainbow. My Cree name, I can't even say my government name is Rachelle because I go by my middle name. My first name is Marissa. So I go by my middle name. I don't have a street name. I'm as urban as they come. You're the most resi thing about me.
That's true.
Actually, you know what? The most resi part about my house too is that like my curtain is a bed sheet.
I upgraded from that years ago.
Did you? It's like God. I need to hang on to my roots somehow. I'm from urban. I'm Rachelle. You can call me Rachelle. My spirit name is standing on a rainbow. I stood under a rainbow yesterday.
I seen that. I did see that. It was really beautiful.
Yeah, it was really cool. We saw a double rainbow. Mm-hmm.
Double rainbow. What does it mean?
I
Ever
don't
seen
know.
that video?
No.
Okay, it's a YouTube thing. I don't know for y'all who are listening. I just aged myself. Double rainbow. Look it up.
Yeah, we're 33 years old.
Don't tell them.
It's too late. We're not editing these.
And I guess we could say together, welcome to
Tuesdays,
Two Spirit Tuesdays.
I'm gonna pee.
Okay.
Two
To us Tuesdays. To us Tuesdays. Oh. Okay. Now that we got through that intro, we're still hashing
We're still
things
hashing it
out.
out. It's gonna be the same.
Getting the feel things where you're just getting all of it. Just the rugged, the chill Sunday vibes, messy bun hair.
Monday.
Yeah.
It's Monday. It's a long
Oh yeah, it's Monday.
Mhm.
Oh my god, what
You
does
go
it
back
feel
to
like
work
Sunday?
tomorrow.
It's because it's a long weekend.
Because it's a long weekend. You were
Yeah.
gone. You left for
Yeah.
Calgary.
I was away since literally after work.
Mhm.
I left on Friday and came back today. And I just went to go make my rounds in Calgary. Went to go, for those who don't know, like I actually was in Calgary for 6 years and I've been back in Musqueam, Skygon for about a year now. And I guess since we're like kind of talking about like where I was from, I think we should just talk about a little bit about our stories and who we are and get to know us, you know?
Mm-hmm.
What do you
Yeah.
think?
Get to know us episode.
Yeah.
Why you should watch us because we're so cool.
Yeah. So I guess one thing I could ask is let's just hit it from the top. Like, tell me a little bit about you. Who's Rachelle, or should I say, who's Marissa?
Who's Marissa? Marissa is non-existent because I've never gone by Marissa. But me, you know what? That's the thing with like identity and like who are you? I hate that question because I don't know. Who am I? Still figuring it out. Like I'm a mom. I grounded myself in this work in the front lines, like the social sector for the last few years. And I feel like in that time I made like outreach and harm reduction my entire identity.
Mm.
That after going through like this big burnout last year and going through like because I'm in early recovery still from like drinking, from drugs, I'm still figuring out who I am. I know what I do. Like the things I do is I, like fight for people and fight for the rights of people and for justice and social justice and tackling these systems that like drive oppression. Like that's what I do, but for so long I made that who I was. So I'm still in this phase of trying to figure out like who I am outside of the work, outside of the whole colonial bullshit that's out there. Trying to figure myself out outside of being a mom even. Like I'm more than just those labels, but I still don't know who yet.
Sorry, go on.
Like I'm still getting there, that's it.
Yeah. Would you say being somebody that's been in an urbanized perspective most of your life, right? Would you say that would you say as an urbanized Indigenous person, the challenges you have faced being an urban Indigenous person?
Yeah, you know what, like, because being an Indigenous person, I didn't start reconnecting to myself until a few years ago. Like when I had Leo, I was in this really strong mindset that the way the world was working was functional. Like it was functioning in a good way. I was very much like I had some pretty conservative views. And I grew up in a family that wasn't like very conservative, but we didn't talk about politics or anything like that. Like we didn't talk about our culture. It was just trying to fit into like societal norm. And that was a lot of my life was conformity, and I call myself a successful assimilated person just because.
Say that one more time.
I call myself. Did I even say that right?
A successful assimilation?
I call myself successfully assimilated.
Is that a good thing?
No, that's not a good thing. That's my experience. That's the thing, is I was successfully assimilated into this dominant, like Eurocentric society as like from birth.
Yeah.
I didn't have culture. I went to schools that were French immersion, Catholic, very white centered. We learned about things like the fur trade, the peaceful like land extractions, that kind of thing. So I didn't have this like healthy perspective of Indigenous people.
Oh, that's a record player. Sorry, keep going.
It's very much one of those situations.
There we go.
It's like one of those things where I didn't have exposure to my culture till I was older, and any exposure I did have was just like the negative one, where I always questioned like, what did we do so wrong? Because everyone around me, like, I knew from a young age that people thought it was unfortunate that I was Indigenous, and so I learned from a young age that it was unfortunate to be Indigenous. Like I remember when I was young and I started noticing my skin tone, and I had no idea like why am I darker than other people. And I remember it being being this really young child at a park, like playing in the sand. And this one kid was like, why is her skin brown? And their mom was like, oh honey, like she plays in the sand too much. And so I was like,
no way.
I was like 4 or 5 years old, and I remember being in the bath, like scrubbing my legs, thinking like I was playing in the sandbox too much. And that's just like was the norm throughout my like whole childhood, was being the one who stood out because like my skin was darker.
Yeah. And
then when I got older, I started realizing like, you know what? Being Indigenous is the most like looked down upon that I gathered. So for me, when people used to ask like, what are you, like what's your ethnicity, I'd be like, guess, because I didn't want to say it out loud. I was so ashamed. And when people would guess anything but Indigenous, anything but Native, I didn't learn the word Indigenous till later. Like it was always just Native kid.
It was always Native, yeah, or First Nations.
Not even that.
Not even
the Native girl. Yeah, the Native girl.
Me was ghetto.
Ghetto.
Just kidding. That ghetto kidder.
That ghetto kidder. For real. But like people,
oh my God.
It was just the Native girl, and so I didn't tell people. I would just say, guess what it is, and I would pride myself on what they guessed if it was anything but Indigenous, and usually it was like Filipino, some sort of like Asian descent, and I was like, yes, that's what I am, because it was like socially more acceptable to be something else. And that was like my life as an urban Native person, and I didn't really have any desire to learn about myself indigenous, like as an indigenous person, till I had Leo.
Yeah.
And that was because like I have a kid now and they're part indigenous, and I don't want them to have this shame of who they are like I did. Because at that same time I started learning about residential schools and the kids that were recovered, you know, the 250 that year. That was the year that I started learning about residential schools, and I was like, holy fuck, like we did nothing wrong. I didn't know that's what happened to my family. I didn't know that's what happened to us. So I didn't, like, I had all these answers suddenly thrown at me, and so that was like a big identity crisis moment. But Leo on their dad's side is Ukrainian and French Canadian, so it's like their dad's side is very proud of their culture, is like really engaged in their cultural and their traditional values, and but then on my end it's like we're so down here, and I was like, I need to get us up to here so that, you know, we're proud too, so that Leo doesn't have one end of themselves that's like really proud and just like really involved in their culture, and then our end that's just like down here, you know.
Yeah, to just be like, to be so, like, there was something that, you know, it's interesting. I'll share. An elder once told me, a knowledge holder, and she's from Mesquiches. Her name is Pam Heavyhead, wonderful woman. She married into Ghana, one of the blood tribe down south by Calgary and Treaty 7. And, but she's originally from Mesquiches. And, you know, I remember this thing that she told me once about, like, when it comes to the things that we need to learn and like the things that we're encouraged to learn when it comes to Pamatsu and in our way of life, is like, you know, we have to learn our songs, we have to learn ceremony, we have to learn the language, we have to learn our foods, we have to know our lands, know our families, know our kin, knows our roles and responsibilities. There were quite a few things, like a couple things, but it really tied into, like, I think that's kind of why, like, there was like a big grief and like the heaviness that we've experienced like for so very long as First Nations people and FNMII identities, is that because we lack those things, it does really cripple our self-esteem, it cripples our spirit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she told me, it's like, if a child is met with all of those things that she was naming off, the child would be so full of themselves, they would know who they are, and they wouldn't want to leave this earth. That we see unfortunately a lot of our kin and our relatives out there that experience today with the harms that they're going through, you know, the unaliving and just those layers, you know what I mean? So thank you for sharing that. It's refreshing to hear that on the other side of things, because like your experience is like different than my experience. Yeah,
I grew up with like I didn't grow up on the res. I didn't grow up with my community. I grew up very, like, my mom sheltered us, so that was a big part, was sheltering us from the culture essentially, because like being in the community, there wasn't opportunities, there wasn't things to do, and she didn't want me going down that path. The path that like many of my siblings, my relatives have gone down with, you know, like being, you know, like the stereotypical stuff, like falling into patterns of like alcoholism and substance use and like gang activity, things like that. Because I have family who've gone down those paths, so my mom was like, sorry, I'm so out of breath.
It's alright.
I have low iron. I'm anemic. I'm an anemic girly. But she just like she really wanted to change the narrative in our family. She wanted to change that cycle. She wanted to break cycles, and she did. She broke a lot of cycles in her family, but it also, there's still that ruptured culture, like with our culture and how we identified as Indigenous people. Like it took a long time to really come to this point where I wanted to learn myself as a First Nations person. But she sheltered us, and it did help us stay out of trouble. Like being able to go to sports and stuff, I had that privilege. We also benefited from like a non-Indigenous person who was a relative and like really took care of us. And like my grandpa, he used his, you know, his white privilege and working the oil field, and he helped support us. So we owe so much to him too. But yeah, I was sheltered. I grew up city. I didn't grow up around community. And at the time, it was the healthiest option. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
But I wish, there's parts of me that has grieved, like not being part of communities.
Were you just gonna say you wish you lived on the res?
I wish I got to live around community.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
not on the
I was
res.
just like,
no.
well.
And my community's not even a res. We're a hamlet.
Okay, Hamlet. How Shakespearean of you.
It's just there's that heavy feeling when you don't know your family.
Of course.
Like, you don't know anyone. My mom's closer to the family than I am, and now that we have Facebook and everything, like can meet people.
There's more like accessibility and communication and connection.
But still not the same,
Absolutely.
Like I missed out on a lot of like land and things like that. But
yeah,
it is what it is. Where I'm meant to be. Learning now, connecting now, and that's really what matters.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that. So is it okay that I can sashay into like a little bit about my story?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay. So I guess like the reason why I asked that is like it's really interesting to hear about like what it's like being an urban First Nations, Indigenous, what have you person. And then on the other side of things, this is a little bit about me growing up on the res. So, but the thing is though, our experiences were similar but not in the terms of similarity and like in terms of like assimilation and kind of like colonial effects, but different based on the community and where I grew up. So, like my education was like, I grew up in the res. I was born in Wetaskiwin, 93 June. Gemini season's around the corner, and I'm a Gemini. For those of y'all don't know.
What? Are you sure?
Yeah. It was like, so let's talk about me now. No, just kidding. That's like some Gemini shit to say, but anyways, yeah. So I was born in Wetaskiwin. I was raised in Ermineskin, Musquecheese all my life, which is not too far from here for those of y'all who are listening. It's like very close to Musquecheese, Skyline 36. And I went to a Catholic, here's the thing though, even though I lived on the res, I went to a Catholic school all my life, from K to 12.
On the res?
No, it wasn't on the res. They didn't have a Catholic school on the res. All the residential schools shut down after that. They had a church on the res, they kept the church, but as far like residential systems or any Catholic or Christian systems, they didn't have that on the res. And then here's the thing that I was like always itching to like wanting to be a part of that, because growing up I went to Pinoca school in my life, so I went to kindergarten to 12. I graduated, and the reason why that was is like at the time I grew up on the res. My Goko married her late husband, but we didn't grow up with any of the culture. We didn't grow up with the language, any of the ceremonies, nothing like that, because my Goko was also a foster child of the foster system. And then they're also like the coolest flower child you'll ever meet. Like they're like a runaway. Like they've been all over Turtle Island. Yeah. Just like they have an incredible story. And part of that story was like they met our late Muslim and Ermineskin had kids after my mom and my uncle were born. But when he passed away, he was a cultural man, but that went with him. So even though my Gokuma was like kind of dipping her toes and getting to know the aspect of like first like indigeneity and everything, because they went to residential and they were foster system their whole life, that went with him. And I just think that she didn't have the desire, to teach that or to instill that or carry that on or that interest, because grief is everything. And like, when you have that identity for so long and it's kind of like ingrained into you, like in those early years, and like neuroplasticity, what have you, it's not to say that you can't break that cycle, but at the same time, that's also why I went to a Catholic school, and so did my mom, and so did my uncles, and they went to the same school. And like, so even though I went to a Catholic school all my life, it wasn't like the worst experience per se. I would say like I had my braids until I was like 13 or 14, and then I cut it. I made the choice to cut the braids myself because I was like, I'm hitting puberty and I just wanted to be cool and fit in. I think that was it. I wanted to fit in. Yeah. Because I was the only one with braids at the time in my grade or whatever. I didn't see a lot of people with braids. And I had beautiful hair. Yeah. And ever since I cut my hair, my hair never grew back the same. And I just feel like it was like thicker. I remember the feeling of getting my hair cut, like my braid cut off by the barber. It was like, it almost, maybe it activated something intergenerationally. Yeah. You know what I mean? But there was that weird feeling of like almost like getting your power taken. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And
Wow.
yeah, it was interesting. So even though I grew up in the res, like yeah, I went to school in Pinoca, but a lot of the time, like on the off days, I'd be like chilling in the town site, or I'd be trying to go see my friends, and like a lot of the times, it's like it's interesting. Like I go to school in Pinoca, but like at the same time, I'd go hang on the town site, or else I would go hang out in Pinoca too. Like my upbringing wasn't really focused around like the color of my skin.
Right.
Were there like differences? Absolutely. Did I experience racism? And absolutely. And I think that was like for one, I remember like we could go under the sun with how many like experiences I had, but I didn't even know about residential school growing up. I didn't know anything about that until like it started becoming talked about because my Gookum never talked about it.
Yeah.
Never. And I was just like, how did this secret be kept for so long? You know what I mean? And I think that's also part of like what was built in, like what the experiences that she had. You know what I mean? But ever since graduation and everything like that, and I left the res and like became like I moved to the cities and everything like that. But I had a hard time even like fitting in.
Right.
I feel like there was like this difference between urban indigenous like people and then like people who come from the res who've always been res, you know, in terms of like my slang sometimes or like human demeanors and like different things. There was always like this weird, at the time I felt like there was like I was kind of insecure because it's like that one meme where it's like when you're like an urban indigenous and you're the Volturi and you're like looking down on like the res kids or the res folks, and it's like that was me. You know what I mean? But like living here for so long, it's like in urban cities, like I will say I have become urbanized, but at the same time it's interesting that on the other side of things, because even though I grew up on the res, I've only ever went to like I'd go to like of course powwow celebrations around dances, but I wasn't interested in necessarily the songs, the culture, the drums, the dancers. Like I was drinking around. Like I was partying around, smoking with my bros and my friends, and that's like a still like it was just never appealed to me like what culture really was, and I was always like afraid of it growing up. I was always kind of like shy around it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's always something because I think that we didn't have that in my upbringing. I was kind of like, oh, going to Catholic school, you know what I mean? Doing the rosary, praying every morning, all those things. You know, it's like, of course I'm gonna be intimidated by it. You know what I mean? And so it wasn't until after like when it came to like Pamatua and like walking in the way of life, like I think it wasn't until I want to say like my mid 20s, my late 20s, like that I started discovering like spirituality and like Pamatuan and being curious about it because it also tied into like me getting sober. You know what I mean? It tied into like a lot of different things because a lot of my life was just like a lot of like chaos and like trauma and addictions and like layers of issues that just like that are being recognized now, and I've done a lot of work, but like that's a whole nother story. But to say the least, like, you know, I remember I had my curtains up. I had my I used how many different sheets in my bedroom. I lived at my Gookum's house. There were 19 of us living at my Gookum's house at one time when I was a kid. Yeah, there was like a living room. There was a little bedroom in there. There were bedrooms in the basement. There were bedrooms in no, it was never a bedroom in the hall. What the hell? No. There was like little sub families everywhere, but that's kind of like the res experience, you know, like because our home fire at our communities, we looked after one another. We all had our little roles and provided, you know, and like.
So you had that like kinship experience.
I would say so, yeah. You know what I mean? Even though there was like, of course, like no family's perfect, there was like a lot of dysfunction, of course, you know, and like secrets that were kept or whatever. But at the same time, like even though I witnessed so many things, like we're always like looked after and protected as best as we could, especially like by my aunties and my mom who was a single mom for basically all my life, you know. And it wasn't until like later on when I was teen that she like met somebody, but like as far as like the res experience goes, yeah. There's a lot. Like freaking, for example, like these are just most cliche things, but I'll tell you, like, you know, having sheets on the freaking windows, a freaking blanket for a door, living in the basement, like, oh my god, there's even this one time, like, a bunch of us, we came to Edmonton here, and I think I was like 7 or 6. And I don't know if people can get away with this state, and if they do, like, kudos to you. But, like, 90s was a different time. Just kidding.
Yeah.
But, like, there was, like, 4 of us kids, and then we needed room to, like, be in the truck. We had to fit us all in there because we were going to Galaxyland West End.
Mhm.
And I remember we had at the time one of our uncles lay in the back truck, like literally the box.
Yeah.
Put a blanket, we'll have to have a blanket over us and stay laying down because all of us, the cab was full. We all went from the res to Galaxyland on the QE2, and we're just like,
oh my
god. And like just things like that, like, because I remember I was a little kid and I was like so excited to be there, and as soon as I jumped out of like the box and everything like that, I remember there was like this Munya family, and they're all just like looking at us, just as shocked and like, oh,
culture shock.
yeah, they're like, why would you do that? Like it's like kind of like the most bowelless, like disgusted look, but meanwhile we're just like, yeah, let's go together.
We're just existing. It's just like a normalized thing. Yeah, even like at Fort Chip, you know, kids are just like, it's just so normal to just jump into the truck.
Yeah.
It's so normal to just have like the kid in the front seat with no seatbelt, and you can't explain it other than it's just you just do it.
You just do it. It's just an experience.
And bringing that to the city as well.
Yeah. Right? It's like other people are like, holy fuck. You know, that's pretty resi, you know, but it is pretty resi. But honestly, I wouldn't have had it any other way.
Yeah.
Honestly, my upbringing, like, I feel like I got a lot of tough skin from being in like a res community and everything like that, because like even though there was like, you know, homophobia here in the city and everywhere we go, there's also a lot of homophobia on the res in small.
For sure.
Oh, absolutely, small communities, and I think that was a big part of why I moved in the first place.
Yeah.
You know, why when I turned 18 and I graduated, thankfully I graduated because my mom was on my ass, you know, the whole time, and I'm really thankful for her that she really pushes me. And like, you know, even provides as a single mom and who's went through some pretty heavy stuff. I don't want to necessarily share my mom's journey on here, but you know, for those of you who have like, you know, single moms and have been through it, but they really provide their best they can for you, really, really, really appreciate them, because a lot of us, you know, we don't get that mom and dad experience. You know what I mean? That's just a very I don't say normalized thing, but it's an effect of everything we experienced, you know?
Yeah.
So I will always love my mom and good comfort teaching me the best values I can, to work hard, to also be kind, loving, and cool and open-minded, you know? And also, we just passed Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day to you also as well, and to all the moms out there, and you know, even the ones who are like not bio moms, even the ones who are like doing both roles, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just all of that.
Just that maternal role.
Yes, there it is. Yes.
Maternal roles, because I had a mom, like my mom's a single mom. She had 3 of us under, like, my mom had me when she was 16. She was pregnant when she was 15. I didn't know till like a couple of years ago, I was conceived in a residential school in Saskatoon. Yeah, my mom had to get like a weekend pass to go to this, like, so my dad was a square dancer, like a competitive square dancer. And she got this weekend pass to go to like this square dance competition or whatever, and that's how she met him. But then she was in Saskatoon at a girls' boarding school kind of thing, and then they sent her back when she got pregnant because they're like, what the hell, like, you can't do that, you can't be here. But yeah, she and then she had me, she had my brothers. One of my brothers is like 3 years younger than me, and then the other one is 9 years younger than me. Yeah. And so she had like these she was single, 3 young kids. I can't even think right now, but she had 3 young kids, single. She provided, like, she was the mom and dad role for all of us. We all have different dads though. So one of my brothers has a really good dad, really close, really good to me and my other brother and like our family. Just like really. That's good. It's a good relationship there. And then my other brother, he's getting closer to his dad. Yeah. That's their experience. And then for myself, like, I didn't know my dad growing up. He died when I was 16. Never had the opportunity, but he wasn't a bad person in my life. It was just my mom protected me from the lifestyle that they were gone down. So it wasn't that she was like keeping me from them, it was more sheltering me from the lifestyle. But yeah, like same thing, my mom worked her ass off, pushed me to graduate. She's like, you have to graduate, like there's no option, that is the only thing that gets you to opportunities.
Right? And it's like I like when we're just trying to survive in this world that we're being conditioned to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I understand the importance of, you know, pushing education, but I also at the time, you know, now that we know now the significance of having lived experience, but also the significance of knowing the worth and the value of what our traditional teachings and our traditional instructions as Nehiwak are. Like, it's so valuable, you know? So if we can put those things together, like, oh my god, who knows? Like, there's already so many change makers in this life, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's what also and that's what transpired from this too. You know, like for us having these moms and their experiences and having kids and being like, no, we're gonna create change now. And even doing it if it was like a subconscious thing. We see the importance of education. We see the importance of getting those like papers, whatever, like diploma from high school. Knowing that education's always going to be there anyways, right? But knowing now what we know about the education system and knowing about our cultural values and knowing that things are wrong, you know, the education we're pushing people after isn't even the right education we need.
Yeah.
And that's like a hard reality we have to face as Indigenous people too, because it's like, how do we change that?
Yeah. How do
when we're still learning it ourselves? Like there's so much pressure put on us as like millennial Indigenous people in this like really colonial society. And it's like, how do we, and this is how we do it. You know, this is part
exactly
of how we do it.
We talk about it, we engage with one another, we learn from one another. You know, we share we share those transactions in a good intentional way.
Yeah.
It's not harmful, that's not extractive or selfish.
No.
You know what I mean?
And even our youth too, you know, the kids
Holly, you just
that...
reply.
You
know what I mean?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
and we go back to our roots and like learning about our culture and learning about our identities and who we are. And then for you, you know, like you said, there's so much homophobia that still happens on the res.
Oh, yeah.
Anywhere, but on the res especially, there's so much lateral violence and families, you know, not being so functional because there's so much trauma, intergenerational trauma. So it's like, how did you even find out for yourself what it means to be two-spirit? Like, when did you learn about that identity?
I never even knew what two-spirit was. Like the terminology two-spirit itself, like that didn't come across anything. Like I didn't know about that until like, honestly, I want to say maybe like 8 years ago, maybe 9. You know what I mean? Like it was very recent still, you know. And like for like longest time, like, you know, my upbringing and everything, like, you know, I'm fortunate enough that I came from a very accepting family. Or so, no, I don't want to say or so I thought. No, like, I don't know. I guess there's just like, I'm not going to talk on it, but I'm not even going to feed it energy. But there's been some underlying things that have come to my attention from certain family members about my name being brought up in conversations regarding to us LGBTQI, like identities, and it wasn't a good thing.
Right.
Like it sounded very gross. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
So we're not going there, but for the most part, like, you know, my mom, my cousins, like my kokom, they were very embracing, and I think that they already honestly knew. I mean, like, who the hell dresses up their cousin in tea towels and like sheets and like makes them walking back and forth down a hallway while I'm just like sitting there just clapping and my little gantry was like, yay, you know, like playing runway fashion show kind of deal. And who wears their auntie's 725 original like chunky shoes during the Spice Girl era, mind
Yes.
you. In grade, 3 or 2 or
Yes.
something like that, you know?
Did we all have that experience?
Yeah, you know?
The clear one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh. And I just always felt like a bad bitch whenever I wore those.
You are a bad bitch.
Thank you. We're bad bitches.
Yes.
But like, yeah, and I'm really grateful, like, even though they saw the signs before myself, like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful to actually have that acceptance, even though, like, outside of, like, my house, you know, even I've always, of course, like, still struggled to come into myself, like, because I think it was, like, my first boyfriend, I think I was, like, 15.
Mhm.
You know, but even admitting to my friend at the time, because I was so emo and so hardcore, and for some odd reason, a lot of like emo guys, like during that era, tied bisexuality into.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened to that?
Yeah. 100%.
And I was one of them, but I was like, no, I'm pretty sure I'm legit gay. Like, I'm gay as hell. You know what I mean? Because I remember coming out to my friend, like coming into myself to my friend. And then we were like drunk at a party, you know. I was like, I think I'm bisexual. I was just like holding my little freaking Smirnoff Ice, and my hair is just perfectly straight. And then my friend's like, it's not a bad thing to love. She's like, I love you no matter what. She's like, if anything, that makes it cooler. And I was like,
Aww.
yeah. Because it was like a thing that I couldn't face myself.
Mm-hmm.
But when I actually started like, you know, I don't even like to use the word experimenting, but like discovering, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
On like what I like and what I don't like, I realized like even the little like a couple girlfriends that I had when I was like younger than like 15, or a couple I had, but it was honestly just like making out, and I think I was like, it just wasn't there, like it didn't feel right to me. It was kind of like more like I was like pressured.
Yeah.
From like the society I was around, you know what I mean? And it was as open as it was, you know, today.
Yeah.
And even now it's like, why are we going backwards? But anyways, like, yeah. And then when it actually came out to me, like my mom, she was like, yeah, I know. Like, and she was like, at first she was reluctant.
Yeah.
But then afterwards, you know, after, like, it was like she knew, but she didn't want to accept it kind of deal. Maybe because she wanted, I don't know, I can't explain it, but she did say, like, you know, honestly, she's like, you're one of the best blessings I've ever had. And she's like, I'm really glad that I actually have like a two-spirit in my life. You know, my kokom was always cool with me since like the get-go, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so when it came down to that, and I think a big reason why I did leave that res is because I wanted to discover it for myself.
Right.
You know, I wanted to like let my like dust off my wings and fall out of the fucking nest, fly out of the nest, you know what I mean? But I you best believe I smashed my head on the ground, like, you know, like many times, and to get to this point. But like, I will say, like, I want to say something very important, and I think it's like, yes, I come from the reservation, but also at the same time, our reservations are beautiful. You know what I mean? Sure, we have a lot of things that are like plagued with like things that we see. The polarity of that one time the Edmonton Sun like had that horrible, like, do you remember that that clipping where it's like Hobima and there's like the gun? That was fucked up. That was really fucked up. You know what I mean? And it's good that we're coming to a place of reclamation. Like, you know, Hobima's like, that's like a dead name. Hobima is very much a dead name. It is a dead name. And it literally isn't even a traditional name at all. It was named after it was a railway stop, and it was named after, I think it was a president of like the not Via Rail, the Peace, what is it called again? The Canadian Pacific Railway. The president named it after the last name of a Dutch painter. Something like that.
Yeah.
But I'm serious. Yeah. And so when it came to like reclamation and naming Muscat cheese, it's like, thank God, you know what I mean? So when people say like, well, it's always from Hobima, it's like, oh, you're from Hobima, and like when I say Muscat cheese still, it's like, where's that? I'm like, well, Hobima, and they're like, oh, you know? We don't have to, we don't have to focus on that anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, it's Muscat cheese.
It is Muscat cheese.
It is
We're letting go of that colonial narrative that was given to it.
You know?
you know, like things don't always just stay bad.
Absolutely.
That's why we feed it these, like, you know, we nourish it. We change with the reclamations.
And that change does come from our communities, you know. At the time, I will say, like, even when I was like moving to like cities, I was always reluctant to say I was from Habiba. You know what I mean? They're like, ooh, you know, like ghetto ass kid, you know what I mean? But it's like, yeah, I am. You know what I mean? But also our community is freaking amazing. You know what I mean? We have beautiful powwows. We have beautiful people. We're fucking funny. You know what I mean?
And so resilient.
And
people
we're
are
all
so
resilient, you know?
We're so strong and
yes,
so
yes.
much.
And I think that's the beauty of it. It's like, yeah, people see it for like what the media portrays of their experiences, but also at the time, I see now how beautiful our culture is, even with everything, you know, with the ceremony, there's the significance of certain landmarks, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And that never would have crossed my mind, you know, back then. I don't know from then to now. And I hope the listeners who are listening, you know, you too can open your eyes and tell a friend or tell somebody in the community and they really stand up for those things, you know?
Yeah, because it matters.
It does matter.
Especially as like, for us, because we're two-spirit coming into all this like really important deep work, while also still trying to find ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it's a lot of identity. Just like my mind lately is on identity and like, who am I? Like, what direction am I going with my life? How do I nourish my kid and like their identity while also figuring mine? Like, because for two-spirit, for me, I remember my mom was in school for the last few years doing her education degree at like Fort. It was U of R and then First Nations. I can't remember. It's First Nations side of things. But she's doing her education degree and like learning from Indigenous perspectives and all that. And she wrote a paper on two-spirit people like a few years back. I remember she sent it to me because I was also doing a paper on two-spirit people in my program. But I just remember being like reading it and it didn't make sense to me. Like I just couldn't grasp what it was talking about. Like talking about how there's like this spiritual connection and holding female male roles and things like that. And I was like just conflating it with like transgender and the rest of like the acronym, because I didn't know about like Indigenous side of things. I just learned like, you know, there's just LGBTQ and then whatever this 2S is at the end. I didn't really consider myself two-spirit for a long time. Like Leo was more like my child Leo is very openly, proudly two-spirit. They're going to be 8 pretty soon. They've been two-spirit, like grounded in their identity as a two-spirit person since they were almost 5. When we went to our naming ceremony, at the end we went and talked to the elder who gave us our names, and I told him about Leo and their identity, and he looked at Leo and just said like a really long phrase in Cree, and then he was just like, and I asked him, I was like, what did you just say? And he said, what's the word?
Testawinawak.
Yeah, he said that, and then he said two-spirit, and he was just like still looking at Leo. He's like, it's not a bad thing at all.
Testawinawak. Testawinawak, yeah.
And that means two-spirit. That means like in between people. Kind of like Igueo, right? Like Igueo, isn't that? I hear a lot of different things. I hear different things. I hear some people say that means in between, but then it also.
Literally, what did the knowledge keeper from community, what did she say? She has a beautiful teachings on different the two-spiritedness and how like even our language systems are like non-binary. We never had a binary.
No.
But anyways, I think it's that one. I honestly think it's like it's somewhere it's like translation to a castrated horse. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not a castrated horse. You know.
Well, that's when I hear that. That's a really.
We gotta figure this out. I want to get to the ground of it.
Let's ask Kathy.
Yeah, we will.
Kathy will know.
And I'll even talk to the facilitator who did that and everything like that. Like,
yeah.
I need to have a definite, because I don't want to be feeding any of y'all misinformation. And also, none of y'all better be talking about these things and trying to go make money off of it. Right?
Give us $5. No. But yeah, no, so like, even with like two-spirit or two-spirit, Leo with that elder. So Leo started connecting to that term, that concept, and we started learning. For me growing up, I knew I liked people. You know, I like people. It didn't matter if they were a girl or a boy. It just like it was a person if we connected. And I was pretty young, but socially, the binaries, you know, like the heterosexual norm is like it's a man and a woman.
Yes.
And like learning in Catholic schools too, it's like man and woman this.
Oh my god, sex ed was so fucked up.
It was so dumb.
It was so awkward for me.
I hated it so much, and we didn't learn anything meaningful or like relevant or actually about our bodies. It was just. It was a plot of like.
It was almost like an indoctrination. Basically. It is an indoctrination. Yeah. You know.
And so I thought that was like what it had to be. And my mom was always like really accepting of gay people, and like she was fine with gay people, lesbians, and the rest of the acronyms weren't really talked about back then.
Yeah.
But when it came to like trans people and trans identity, that was kind of the cutoff, it seemed.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because she didn't support people or didn't accept people, but it was for us in our little family who was, you know, we had the odds against us. Our lives were just trying to conform to the society, conform and fit in. And if I was a trans child, like I'm not fitting in anymore. And that's like a whole realm of like, that's just a whole other thing to navigate when my mom had, you know, family members going through trauma, intergenerational trauma. And I won't share like all their experiences or open those cans of worms or like, you know, air out dirty laundry here, but it's not my stories to tell, but just the way things go in our families and our dynamics, you know.
I'm sorry I'm listening.
No.
I'm just like, I just want to be use my podcast platform to talk shit.
Yeah, let's air it all out.
They'll just be like, I've seen your podcast.
No, I'm trying to be really careful with my words. Trying to respect people's stories and experiences, but also trying to stay true to my own. Because like when it comes to trauma and the way things were back then, people didn't know what they know now. A lot of us didn't start healing until later. So there was a lot of toxic things being said to my mom, like about me and my brothers and how we were going to grow up, if we were going to be successful or not, or if we were just going to be destined for failure because we're indigenous and with a young mom trying to figure it out. So it wasn't okay if I was someone who was trans, you know, because I remember when I was 11 and I started feeling more masculine than not. I felt like really in touch with this masculinity, and I really wanted to present myself that way. Like I really genuinely had this big, strong desire to just be perceived as a boy. Yeah. And I was like 10, 11 years old. And my best friend also felt the same way, and we had that experience together, and her mom was very like accepting of it, like was like, okay, that's fine, like they're a white family, they Oilfield family, like they're from Newfoundland, and they had it pretty like society, like socially they weren't marginalized, you know? And so things were fine there. She was allowed to explore and discover her identity, and for me, I wasn't allowed. I was able to wear the boy clothes. I was able to like tell people I was a boy and be called like he and be called him. But where my mom drew the line at the time was cutting my hair. It's like I wanted to cut my hair to look the part, you know, like have short hair. And she said no. She was like, if you cut your hair short, like you're gonna be wearing dresses, like that kind of thing. I just like I couldn't be perceived as a boy as much as and I just remember that feeling. I just felt so. I felt so stuck and closed into my own body. Like it seemed, and for me it felt so mundane too, because it's like, it's just hair. Yeah. But for me, that's the one thing that people perceived as like a female, was they looked at my hair and they could tell by my features, whatever, that I was a girl. And I was just devastated. I really wanted to cut my hair, wanted to be a boy.
Yeah. That's so interesting that you bring that up, because I was just telling you, like, it is a form of like gender affirming care. It's a form of like, you know, feeling comfortable in your own skin, whatever, how you express yourself, your gender expression, what have you. But I think that's a big part of like me resisting myself at the time too when I cut my hair. Yeah. Because obviously, you know, I'm pretty. Let's just say I got good features. We'll see what happens. But like, they're like real conceited bitch. It's confidence. But anyways, Like I've always had like very soft features. Even when I was a kid, if I was to show you pictures of me when I was like
Yeah,
a
look
kid,
at your little delicate hands.
like my delicate hands, you know, very beautiful. Like these are my real nails.
I know.
And everyone always
Jealous.
comments on my nails. They're like, "Why you got beautiful hands?" And I'm
Yeah,
like,
for real.
I'm like that hand model on Zoolander just walking around with those.
You're a pretty girly, I get it.
Thank you. Anyways, okay, long story short, I struggled a lot with getting bullied because I had long hair. Even though my mom always wanted me to keep my long hair because that was my strength. You know what I mean? That was a sign that's like, this is my son. This is like, you know, who's who they are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was a First Nations person, and like, but I remember I experienced a lot of bullying in that aspect though too, because like I used to get my hair pulled. I used to get called a girl. There was even this fucked. Okay, there was even this like kid at this Bible camp that I used to go to as a kid called Camp Living Water. I don't even know if it's still a thing anymore. But they take a bunch of res kids and they go to this Bible camp during the summer. And like it was camp, like it was so fun, you know what I mean? Like you don't think about the bigger scale of things, but you're at summer camp, you're actually going away, you know what I mean? Like it's gonna be cool. There was this kid who was so persistent on kissing me, this little boy, and we were both like little kids, right?
Yeah.
And he like literally would always harass me to kiss him.
Yeah.
He was like, "Yo, you're so pretty," and I was like, "I'm a boy." And then he was like, "Oh, but you're so pretty." And I was like, "I'm a boy." And he's like, "You're a girl." And I was like, "No, I'm not." Yeah.
How old were you?
I was 7.
You're
7 or 8. Yeah. I was like, no, I was like 8 or 9 actually, I think. I was young. Anyways, but then maybe in the back of my head I was like, no, yeah,
wait,
maybe, you know, what? Yeah, but anyways, like, I think that was also like a way of like resistance to myself, though. You know what I mean? Like cutting my hair, being like in the gangsta era during that time. I think it was like what Gene, it was a big thing, and like Baby Fat and all of that stuff. But it was like during the gangsta era, and I was like just trying to conform.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Conformity.
Conform, you know, and it just never fit with me.
No.
You know? So
it's so interesting. It's like, do you ever think about how, like who you might be if you just had that normal, like if it was normalized then to just like explore your gender identity at such a young age instead of feeling this pressure to like fit into this weirdly like rigid binary that was just like imposed on us. I always think about that. I'm like, who would I be? And I like thinking about it because I look at Leo and I'm like, that's who I would be. Yeah. I mean, I became who I am, and it all unfolded the way it was supposed to. And like, my mom's the most accepting person in the world, even if I wasn't able to, to express myself the way I really wanted to at that age. She's just like, she was the first person that Leo ever corrected for pronouns when they were like almost 5 years old, and that was huge to me. I remember the day Leo was outside. They used to love scooping dog poo. And my mom was like, "Oh, like Leo, you're such a good boy." And Leo looked at her and was like, "No, no, tatum, I'm a girl." And that was the first time Leo ever corrected anyone, and like even, well, they never had to correct me, but like that was the first person Leo felt safe to correct, and it was my mom, and they just always had this like really good bond, and my mom's so supportive of their identity, and
that's so beautiful.
like she's recently listening to this ebook about, and they're talking about like two-spirit people, and like she's just constantly learning, and people do change, you know, and knowing how it felt as a kid to just not have the ability to express myself the way I wanted to. I just knew for Leo, I don't want that. You know, I don't want them to feel so constricted into the word. And so I see that. I could see like kids like Leo and young kids who are queer, part of the community, and they have like parents or community who are accepting, and seeing them just like be who they are and not to find it later.
And let them, like the kids, have their own autonomy and earn their own space to discover.
Autonomy and non-interference. That was the biggest thing when I started learning about Indigenous values. Is like the natural laws and the law of non-interference and non-interfering with their identity and their own experience, right? Like we're creating that safe space.
That's so beautiful. You know, you really got my gears turning when you said that. Like, who would I have been had you know? And to be honest with you, I think it's just because, like, I don't even know how to answer that, you know?
And there's not even an answer.
There's not an
You
answer.
know?
But I do know that at least I was fortunate enough to have, like, an accepting family. You know what I mean? That's a big thing, you know? I think that's a very big thing. And even though I face, like, a lot of adversities, I face a lot of, like, trials and tribulations and hard, dark moments to get to where I am today.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have had it any other way.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And I say that, I'm not saying that anyone deserves to go through